So here we have this M10 hex bolt, and using configuration table, we are going to create several other iterations of this bolt. So basically we'll use this single bolt to create M12, 14 and 16 bolts. Now all of this using configuration table. So currently, if you go to this configuration manager, you'll find that we only have M10-flange configuration. That's the only one which we have, which is this one. Now to create more configurations here, instead of using the usual method of creating configuration right from scratch, I'm going to use the table. And for that, I'll first start with this feature manager tree. Now here we have this annotations folder. I'll select it, right click, and I'll start with show feature dimensions. Now all the dimensions are visible here, and I've already renamed it properly so that it's clearly identifiable. For example, here if you look at the feature tree, here I have clearly mentioned the name like bolt body, bolt head, thread, and so on. Also, the dimensions here are named properly. So if you go to this view option and select the dimension name, you'll notice that all of these dimensions are also named properly in this list. Now here I'm going to start with this main dimension, which is the height of bolt. So I'll just right click on this, and here I'll select configure dimension, and that's going to show us this modify configuration, which is actually the configuration table. Usually it's small, but you can extend it to just make it larger. Now this is where we are going to create and save all our configurations. But before I do that, I'll just cancel this and I'll maybe go to configuration manager so that we can see the existing configurations in real time. Now I'll right click here and select configure dimensions. And here the current configuration that you'll see is the bolt height, that's 60 mm. All right, but we want to add more dimensions in this list. And to do that, I'll simply start with the diameter of this bolt. Now the bolt diameter is 10 mm, as this is an M10 bolt. So that's right here, bolt dia. So double click this and it's going to add it here in this list. All right, now the head dia. So head dia is 17. So double click this and it's going to add this to here. And then we have height of this head. So that height is right here. So double click this and the height is added. All right, so we have a fillet value as well for this. So I'll just double click this fillet and that's also added. Now for the flange, so we have the flange here and the flange dia is right here. So I'll double click the flange dia, that's added, and height of flange is right here. So I'll double click this also to add it. And in a similar way, you can add as many parameters as you want. Now for now, these parameters are just sufficient. And there is one more thing that I may want to add here, and that's this flange itself, because in some configurations, I may want to show the flange and in some I'll just hide it. Now the flange happens to be well here. So we have flange dia and flange height. And if you click this arrow right here, it's going to show the suppress feature related to this. So just click and the suppress feature will also show up here. So now the flange suppress or unsuppress feature is also available. You can also double click on the flange feature directly to just bring it here. All right, so with that, we now have this table, and let's give it a name and save it, because if you exit out of this, it won't save this configuration table. So I'll give it a name. I'll call it bolt table. All right, and I'll click on the save option, and now this is saved here in the tables dropdown. Now to create a new configuration, all you need to do is just click here and just give it a name. So this is M10. Let's make it M12. So M12, and that's our new configuration. Now currently it will just copy all the properties from M10, but we don't want to do that. We will now change these values. Well, the first one is bolt height. Let's keep it same. We're not going to change the height of this bolt, and the bolt dia. Definitely we're going to change it. So this should be 12 mm because that's a M12 bolt. So that's 12 mm. Now the head diameter, and that value is 19 mm. So I'm just using the standard sizes that you can find anywhere on the bolt specification. So you can just check for these standard sizes as well. All right, then we have height of this bolt. So that is 6.4 for M10 and it is 7.5 for M12. So I'm going to type 7.5 and tab key. Now the fillet of this head. Now this is a value which you can choose according to your requirement. Here I'm just going to make it 2.2. And then we have the flange diameter. So flange diameter was 28 for that example. I'll make it 30 for this one. Now the flange height, I'll leave it at 1 mm. I'm not going to change height of flange. And also I'll leave the suppression off. we want to show the flange. Now, after that, you can create as many new configurations as you like. So here, maybe let's just create one more configuration here. So I'm going to type M14 and I'll add values for M14 bolt. So I'll leave the height at 60. The bolt dia is definitely going to become 14. This should be 22 and this should be 8.8. Head fillet will now become somewhere around 2.8 and flange dia, I'll make that 30 mm. Now the flange height also, I'll just change this value here. So I'll just make it maybe 1.4 and we're done. All right. Now let's make one more for M16. And here it should be 16. This should be 24 and this value will be 10. The head fillet, I'll make that 3. The flange dia, I'm going to make it 30 and then flange height, I'll just make it 1.6. All right, we have added all these values and now all of these configurations are also added here as you can see. Now let's save this table. Don't forget to save it. So click on save and click OK. Now, if you want to see the changes in real time, simply double click a new configuration and here it is. It's going to change just like that. So here, as I'm changing the configuration, it's changing this bolt. Now, in all of these situations, the only thing which is not changing is the diameter of this flange. And I think the flange diameter should be added in the configuration too. So to add it and to modify the existing table, simply expand this, select bolt table, right click and select show table option. And it's going to show this table again. Now the flange dia for all of these is here, well, set to 28 and 30. If you want to change it, once again, you can change it for the respective bolts. So maybe I'll just make it 32 here, 34 here, and maybe 36 here. All right. Now, if you want to make nested configuration, which is a configuration inside a configuration, then you can do that as well. Now, the nested configurations can be created from here, or you can just do it here as well. First, let me just save this one, click OK, and let me show you how you can do that here. So if you want to create a new configuration here, you can simply right click on this top level and select add configuration, or you can just right click in the blank area and select add configuration. So that's how it works. If, however, you want to add a nested one, select the configuration where you want to just add a nested configuration, maybe activate it, then right click and select add derived configuration. Now this derived configuration will be added right inside this as a nested configuration. So I'll just select add derived configuration and I'll give it a name. So let's just call it no flange and click OK. So now we have inside this M10 flange another configuration called no flange. So I'll simply rename this main configuration too. So I'll just slowly double click. I'll hide this flange option. All right. And then we have the flanged and the non-flanged version, but this should be modified. Currently, as you can see, we just have the flange here as well. So instead of modifying it from here, I'm just going to select this bolt table, right click and show table. And from here, I'll just modify the no flange version of this configuration. So no flange, and I just need to suppress this flange here. So select suppress and we are done. Now in a similar way, if you want to add more derived configurations for all of these, you can do that as well. So maybe for M14, let's add a few derived configurations. So I'll right click here and I'll select add derived configuration, give it a name. So I'll just call it no flange and just click OK. And here we are. So we've got this no flange added. Now let's add maybe one more derived configuration here. So I'll right click and I'll select add derived configuration and I'll call it long bolt. All right. So we have the default version, long bolt and no flange. In the no flange option, I'll just suppress it. And in the long bolt option, I'm just going to increase the height of this bolt. So it is 60 mm. Let's just make it 100 mm. All right. That's the only difference here. And with that, we are now set. So simply save this table, click OK, and it's time to test this. So we have M14 with two derived configurations, no flange, double click, and we don't have a flange. Just go to the main configuration. We have the flange and just select the long bolt and here it is. It's the longer one. So in this way, you can use configuration table to create configurations quite easily. And its advantage is it's kind of permanent here and you can always go back to this table and modify your configurations whenever required.